Okay, well, it's 6:30, so we will go ahead and get started. It is February 10th and the Waitsfield Selectboard. Any additions, removals, or adjustments to the agenda tonight? No? All right, public forum. Is anyone here for the public forum? No? Okay, then we'll go on to the regular business, and our first agenda item is to appoint York Haverkamp as our Waitsfield Town Administrator. No, don't worry about it. There's no expectations here.
I'll make that motion retroactive this morning.
Okay, effective this morning. Okay, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome aboard. It's very exciting.
It's been wonderful having him here.
Yes,
Awesome.
it is. Yeah, it's great to be back to full strength. We got a full strength road crew and everyone that we're supposed to have in the office is.
Let's mark it on the calendar.
That was, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot.
Jen's actually in Ireland.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, she's on vacation. She is
Okay.
on vacation, but she'll come back. So we're good.
Well, I really appreciate it and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure you guys are ready. It's been a couple of days since you've had a TA, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just a few.
just, it's 10.5 months.
Yeah.
But who's counting? Yeah.
Well,
No, it's, shoot, Annie left at the end of March.
yeah.
I remember. Okay, all right. Now we got the,
Say no more, Chris.
tell your last day. All right, then we'll go on to item number 2, that we have the HUSD Harwood Unified Union School District budget presentation, and we have our 2 Waitsfield reps, Bobby Roode and Baby Weir. You are welcome to come sit up at the table and join us if you like.
Yeah, that's really well. Start us off.
Well, we just wanted to, connect.
Yeah,
And we think we've done an awful lot of work this year to trim the budget. And there's still more work to come. We have a facilities committee now that's looking in the future, where, none of those changes will happen until 2026. We can't rush into things, but they've done an amazing analysis. And I think we're just here to kind of talk, see if you have any questions. I think that since consolidation, my opinion is that we've lost some of that community connection, and I think it's really important, that we keep in touch with you as well. And we all used to be part of the same machine, and we still are in some ways. So I just kind of open it up if you have any questions right now, and then maybe we can.
If we can give just a quick overview, which you probably already aware, but the board has voted to warn a budget in the amount of 49,209,927, which is just a 2.75 increase year over year from last year. If you offset revenues from other sources, the budget is actually just a 2.01 increase in education spending, which is below the governor's proposed cap of 3%. So that's good. We are looking at, there are synopsis here. There's going to be a reduction in 15 to 20 FTEs, which is a mix of administrators, teachers, and support staff. Those are being worked out by the admin team now. We had some preliminary discussions at the last board meeting about some of those cuts. And I think there might be re-examining the potential cuts. We'll see. There are some reductions to retirements and resignations. We are also trying to increase class sizes, reduce library and technological resources, this is just kind of the landscape that we're in. There's also some operational changes with a new bus contract, and those rates have gone up, healthcare has gone up, so we're in this landscape where we're trying to we have a thin as budget as possible, yet other costs keep going up, as you can imagine. And just as piggyback on what Bobby said, so I'm chairing the facilities committee, which is looking at consolidation and reconfiguration options. We plan to present 4 options to the board to look at the next meeting, at a meeting in March. We're gonna kick that down the road until the budget is passed. But we're really digging in to see what we can do to cut back on as much spending as possible, but it is challenging in this landscape. And those are just kind of the.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind, if we provided level service from this year to next, we would have seen a 7.3% increase in the budget. So this is not level service. People have asked questions about maintenance, and we have a lot of needs, maintenance needs, but we're only doing those on an emergency basis. So there are no new projects starting that aren't, absolutely necessary. And we haven't been able to put as much aside in a reserve fund, so that we've just been looking at all the pressures. Probably similar to things you guys face, healthcare costs are up, although only 12% this year. But that's only made possible because they dipped into the Vermont School Board Association dipped into their reserve funds.
I think it's probably important to health care, but also health insurance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Health
Yeah.
insurance
Yeah,
is different,
right,
yeah.
health
Healthcare.
insurance costs.
Yeah,
Especially,
and we saw I think that's the same as the town that we had was about a 12% increase.
special ed costs are up 19%, although we're getting some increased revenue. Up 39% for transportation. Teachers' salaries are up 6.5%, which is not a lot given the cost of living in the district. One of the things we're facing is it's hard to recruit new teachers because they can't find places to live. And,
We know that one.
Mhm.
Well,
I know
but
that
there
one,
aren't
yeah.
that many. I mean, last year was about 15 to 20 positions, right?
Yeah.
And then this year's another 15 to 20 positions, so don't really need to attract. as
It's
much
not
new
fun.
talent.
I mean, we're not in a fun place and people, I think you were mentioning one group that was particularly concerned is school nurses. Everybody's gonna be facing, there's gonna be changes and losses and it's not what we set out to do. The other thing, the good news about our district is there was a US News and World Report. Where's the thing? Let's not forget what we're doing right.
Yeah,
The latest US News and World Report ranking of Vermont schools, three district elementary schools were rated in the top 10 in the state. These are Waitsfield, Warren, and Moortown. And the high school is rated number 12 in the state. So we're doing things right. We have good schools.
Yeah.
We don't want to trash that, or we won't, we might not be attracting people with families to this community, which it would be good to have.
What was the criteria?
Hmm?
What was the criteria?
I don't know.
There's numerous. I had it written down.
Numerous, yeah.
Testing, ratios, boy, I have the list somewhere, but that's a really good
Yeah.
question, but it's actually a lot more than I thought. I thought it was would just be based. And I think, so there's US News and World Report, which Waitsfield Elementary was ranked number 3, and then there's niche.com, which ranked at the top elementary school in the state. But I can certainly find out the criteria.
Yeah.
There were numerous of them, but it was more than I thought, actually, which was surprising.
for the high school, it's probably like where kids go to school,
Yes.
employment rates,
Yeah.
all that type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
And of course, if you have been paying attention to the committee work that's already been done and presented to the full board, obviously Waitsfield will not only continue to play a vital role in this district, but is likely to play a bigger role going forward once the board decides on which path it wants to take. So
None of the scenarios have Waitsfield shuttered.
no, they all have them increasing.
What has been the kind of community response since that news has been out there?
Which one? As far as Waitsfield.
Paper last week.
Waitsfield residents haven't said anything. I think they're fine. I'm sure as we get farther down the line and we present some I would say maybe 3 options that we're gonna have our architects look into deeper, I think things will start to get a little bit heavier, but we're gonna reach out. I have meetings with Facein and Moortown School along with the superintendent and the board chair. And then, here in Waitsfield, we're having a couple public forums. So we're getting the word out there. I think the goal is transparency. We want everybody to know
Yeah.
why and how, and get everybody involved in the process.
Yeah. That's key. And I think Truex Collins has come up with some amazing scenarios to look at. I mean, it's really creative out of the box thinking and in terms of how you make comparisons. But what we were specifically interested in is if you make this change, what's the effect? You know, is that gonna be a savings? Is that gonna cost us money? What's the savings over time? So I've been to one meeting that you guys had, and those meetings are, the committee meetings are available to the public if people want to go. But I was really impressed because we spent all summer, I'm on the finance committee and the outreach committee. And we spent a lot of this summer just trying to brainstorm ourselves what would be some scenarios. And then we realized we were really in deep water we didn't know about. And it became obvious that doing some kind of feasibility study was what we really needed to do. And it was spending money, but it was money well spent.
And it's to spend money to save money.
Yeah.
I mean, we did, our last committee meeting, we did finally see some numbers, so some salary projections were thrown in there, basically with a 30-year cost savings. And basically the different options, we could be saving anywhere between 49 and $160 million over 30 years. And if we are to pass a bond, which I think is gonna become increasing topic of conversation, if we were to pass a bond at the outset of those 30 years, we'd be looking at a cost savings of approximately $420 million over 30 years. And if we don't pass that bond, we're gonna be looking at adding that 420 million into what? To taxes. So I do think, you know, the message will get out there, and I think but the work is being done, and we're really happy with our architects. And
Yeah.
it's money well spent.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they have a long history with the district, and some people complain, and why didn't you get estimates from other people? And it's, they know, they've done the work, they know the buildings, and you, Christine, certainly.
Yep.
They've
I've
been
been here.
all over the state.
Yeah,
They're the school architects.
Yes, they are basically, yeah.
yeah, there's a few
There's
other
a few.
ones, but they've been involved with looking at just Harwood itself, the Harwood building, even before consolidation.
Yeah.
Is there still a bond vote planned for renovation of the high school?
There's no bond vote
There's
plan.
nothing.
Yep.
So
Yes.
that's been
I think once
kind of
we,
permanently on hold.
yeah, I think once we get through the budget and we start to flesh out the reconfiguration options, I think that's when you'll start to hear the topic of, you know, it needs to be presented, you know, not just, we don't want to shock everybody, but you know, yes, it's a big number, it's a big savings over 30 years, or it's a big expenditure over 30 years.
Mhm.
So it depends on you.
Yeah,
So I think if the message is framed right, I think we can get the public to really understand it's a necessity.
Yeah.
the
And I think-
situation with the high school infrastructure, it's like the town garages. Every town's garage needs to be updated or
Mhm.
replaced, because they're all that same generation.
Or the same thing with all of our schools,
Yeah.
not just the high school. So, you know, and the important things that are coming to light is, you know, what size school do you need to be efficient operation? Because there is an efficiency in size. I mean, one example would be, I think the state regulation for school nurses is one full-time nurse per 400 students. Now, people have been reacting to that and saying, how can we do that? You know, but I was heartened the other day, I was working at Sugarbush, and one of the Valley teachers and I were talking for a while. And she said, you know, there are creative ways we can do it. Some of the schools are heavy hit with high health use needs. They may have several students with diabetes, several students with seizure disorder, you know, other kinds of things where their needs, nursing has to be on top of it all the time. But there may be ways that some of the schools that don't have as heavy a load, you know, maybe we could have, I mean, just a creative idea. This was not anything our board talked about, but she was suggesting, you know, maybe we have a floating nurse so that, you know, you don't totally go, I mean, sometimes there are times when there's a crisis and you need a nurse in the building. And if you have a part-time nurse, there's no nurse there. But if you had somebody was able to float, maybe they could be shared between the schools. Or, you know, so there are creative solutions. But I mean, on that note, I worked at Union Elementary School, and we had 500 students and one full-time nurse.
Right, and the thing, right, we
Yeah.
have smaller, our elementary schools, some have 90 kids, some
Yeah.
have 100 kids, and we have full-time, ever since COVID, we went to
Ever since
full-time.
COVID, right, and so these are things we have to address and take a look at, and sure, these services are really great, and the more you have, the better it is, but it's not always possible.
What have enrollment trends been the last couple of years, and have you made any projections?
We've been pretty solid. We haven't changed, you know, you keep reading about the declining enrollments, but they haven't been declining here, and after COVID, many families moved here during COVID, after COVID, so we saw our numbers go up. They will level out.
They will, yes.
Is that across the district?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
But is that true for like each individual school within the district at state level, or is it kind of in aggregate it's level, but there's variance school by school.
I don't know,
you
what do
know?
you
I think, well, I do know that in the early part of COVID, there was a little bit more than 30 new students at Waitsfield Elementary. And Faison has certainly seen an increase as well, even though it remains somewhat small.
Mm.
So I think it was distributed relatively evenly.
And we've seen a lot at the preschool level,
In one, yeah.
so.
Yeah, but that's preschool enrollment's a little bit
Yep.
different because it's universal.
Mhm.
So you don't necessarily go to preschool in
Mhm.
your.
And we're looking at, with our reconfiguration options, we're looking at having, you know, I mean, ideally, one of the planning goals articulated by the administration was to have, was it one preschool in the valley? One preschool in the valley, one preschool.
One
in
preschool, yeah.
Mhm.
Whether that's gonna come to fruition or not. I will say that, of all the options, I believe the committee is gonna put forward, they all hinge on municipal wastewater.
No pressure.
Talk about that later.
They're gonna save $400 million.
Yeah, right? Gotta spend money to save money.
Yeah.
Could I ask a quick question?
Mhm.
The plans here, I applaud your work and efforts. Hi, Bobby and JP. My question is, are you following what's going on in the state legislature about, one, the new Secretary of Education's plan that she's proposed for reducing the number of districts, very radical new approach. And what I'm hearing is Phil Scott is really determined for there to be changes to reduce the cost of education. And the legislature itself is feeling pressure. They got the word from the voters last election.
Yeah.
So my question is, are you following this along with trying to decide on these reconfiguration plans?
I would say that the amount of emails that come through back and forth throughout a day are seemingly endless. So the answer is a resounding yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think we feel, as far as reconfiguration or consolidation, if we want to get out ahead of it, we don't want to have a town an hour and a half away made up of people who have no familiarity with our valley or our district making decisions without local knowledge. So we figure as a board, I think certainly as a committee and as a board as well, that if we get out ahead of it and make the right decisions now, we'll be in a much better place should any of those changes come to fruition. Whether it's the proposed plan, which I think is pretty outlandish, or some minimized version of it. But the answer is definitely yes. And our superintendent is a daily participant in these briefings and education.
He represents the state superintendents on the commission that was formed to look at education funding. So he was on that commission.
Great.
No, I
Good
was,
question.
It's a good.
How could we not? It's very much
Yeah.
present. Yeah, yeah.
well, yeah, and, well, never mind. That was my question.
Good
Okay,
one.
thank you.
Yeah, I don't know that the alternative that's been floated is a lot
No,
better.
the foundation plan, this seems to be what he's.
Well, the one that was coming out of the legislature, and beware of the ones where they tell the school boards they can make their decisions rather than the legislators doing their work.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is there a projection yet from the state as to the impact of the $49 million budget on our kind of education portion of the
Yes.
tax rate?
All right, on the
Local tax rate?
local tax rate,
Well, the education portion,
I
not our
do.
municipal
Yeah.
tax rate.
No, yeah, the
The
local education
hypothetical
tax rate, I
tax rate
think
by
was.
town.
Yes.
It's actually so if you go to the HUUSD.org website,
Yeah.
there's a whole page on budget development where you can find this information. And I think Waitsfield's the tax rate is actually slightly down this year.
It is down,
It
yes.
is.
Yes, everybody, all of the towns were faced in, right?
Everybody faced in because their
They were
CLA
adjusting,
went
yeah.
down.
Even though they did a townwide reappraisal in 2016, the COVID influx
Mhm.
drove those prices so much higher. You saw in Moortown where they did a townwide reappraisal last year, and they're in pretty good stead. So yes,
Basin is the hardest hit.
Yes, exactly, yeah. I think it's about our tax rate, it's down about 0.5%.
Half, percent or half a cent?
That percent.
Yeah, percent.
Yep.
It says 0.5%.
Okay,
0.5, yeah.
So that's, and we're having all these budget
Right.
forums. We have one coming up that at
Yeah.
Jocelyn Library,
No,
and then
That's
there's,
tomorrow.
that's tomorrow, and then the one at the Waitsfield School has been moved to the 20th.
We're having one at the Waitsfield School on the 20th, and then tomorrow at Joslin Library. Right now, the hypothetical tax rate for a $450,000 appraised home in Waitsfield would be $53 less than last year. $350,000 be $41 less, and a $29 reduction for a $250,000 home.
There was somebody from another town who raised an issue of, this 6.7% increase year over year. What's the teacher's, the negotiated salary? He was upset
Yes,
about
yes.
that. And the thing is, he wasn't counting revenue that we had coming in that offsets. it. So we're still looking at a 2.75% budget
well,
increase.
yeah, and we have, if teachers we lose teachers to places like South Burlington or Chittenden
Yes,
County
yeah,
all the time,
yeah.
where their teachers make 15,000-20,000 more a year.
Mhm,
So if we want to retain quality employees,
Yes.
we also have to pay them.
Exactly.
And
Commensurate, yeah,
the Mad River Valleys and Waterbury are very expensive
Mhm.
places to live.
right,
That wasn't insulting. I negotiated.
yeah.
No,
Yeah. But you might hear scuttlebutt, you're
Yeah.
gonna, there's different stuff going around, so just. We've worked hard to come at this
Yeah.
Yeah.
decision.
It's very lean.
Imagine this hasn't been easy work. I really
No.
appreciate it.
Not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun.
What's the rest of the timeline kind of on the 12 proposals you guys are gonna present or recommend for, where to from there?
Well, that'll be the hands of the full board. So we're gonna present, we have honed it down to 4 options and they'll be presented in March, I think it's March 19th, 6 out of my head.
To the full board.
To the full board, and it'll be up to the full board to, what they decide upon, and, but, obviously, it's gonna take a few years to do something like that.
Yeah.
do you anticipate a special election or?
We haven't even gotten that far yet,
No,
and it's
Yeah,
my
there-
first rodeo, so I don't know
there-
exactly how that would go.
there would have to be some town votes
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah. yeah, well, especially
sure.
if it involves closing schools, there's a memorandum about that and how we would go about doing that. And we would have to show where those students would go, which would be the closest school to them, as this compact says.
That's all in the outlay, in the articles of agreement.
So the school board would kind of approve one of these options and then it would be subject to a town vote.
Yeah, well, so
Town
what
by
we're,
town
what we're
vote,
gonna do
then-
though is once, the board were to say, okay, let's go forward with 3 options, these 3, and have, do a full exploration. We will absolutely, the plan is to take it to the public. I mean, we want the public's input, and granted, there's gonna be a lot of pushback from some if their schools will be closed, but, we want the community's input in all of this. So it's gonna be a very open and transparent process. And that being said, who knows what will happen at the end, but we're certainly, before anything is done, after the board chooses their options, it's gonna be community input, public forums. So everybody can get as on the same page as possible. Learn from history. It's like wastewater.
The other thing I want to point out too is that there is a cap on per pupil spending, and then that gets into this whole complicated formula of how we weigh students. And that some students count more than others, and at some grade levels, they count more than others, and there are a number of factors, which is on a state education website that talks about those numbers. And if we go above that rate,
Mhm.
we are looking at being doubly taxed
Mm.
from the state. That's current on the books now. So we will really stay below that number.
Mhm.
That's why but we're very close.
Yeah, we've been there before.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, we're within hundreds of dollars per student, yeah, but we are below that number. Anything else we can, has this been a good process to go through? I mean, it feels like we've gotten
Mhm.
further and further away from having these kinds of town meetings and, Yeah, this could become an annual tradition or something where we try to do an update
Yeah.
before the town meeting.
Yeah, I don't think it hadn't happened since I've been on the board,
Okay.
so I appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll be prepared at town meeting to, I don't.
Yeah, I don't
give a
know
little-
that,
Does that still happen?
generally doesn't happen. And I know people shouldn't be campaigning on ballot topics from the floor,
Yes.
like has kind of happened in the past, but I think questions can be answered.
Yeah, if people have questions.
But yeah, we don't have the school board meeting like we used to have. We used to vote from the floor at the school board
Yeah.
meeting. So that was when going to the unified district necessitated going to a paper ballot.
Yeah, I still think back to those days when you talk about 15 employees, I think about Harwood and not everybody, whole district.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
a lot less of an impact.
Yeah.
Is there a way?
Yeah, but it was 15 to 20 last year and another 15 to 20 this year, so it's more than 10%.
Actually, I think I recall, for some reason it was, might have been 26 or 27 last year, a little bit
Okay,
more.
so
by the
40,
end.
yeah, so it's been more than 10% over those
Yeah.
2 years.
yeah. So the other thing, we've been paying rent to the Winter Park, what's it called up
Mhm.
there? The
Bad River Park.
Yeah, Mad River Park, and our lease will be up in 26, and we are looking to use the facilities to move some offices back in. Or if we aren't prepared to move everybody, there may be people who split up in different buildings, but there is some room in Harwood to do that. And so we'll be saving some money there. But we did not cancel our lease beforehand because that would have been at expense to the district.
Probably not for this moment in time, but for those of us who weren't here pre-unification, at some point, I'd love to hear about kind of what that looked like and sort of how managing, especially since we're sort of looking towards a trend.
Well, and also what we're referring to is a pre-Australian ballot, when you really. Floor.
Yeah, Harwood was always Australian ballot.
Yeah, that's true, that's true.
Although, well,
There was-
it's been
Yeah.
for a much longer
Yeah.
time. I've heard stories. It was pretty ruckus. at those meetings.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. JB, if you want to stay, I did put
Yep,
the emergency
you.
watershed
Appreciate it.
protection grant on next.
Okay.
So if you have any questions
Sounds
to
good.
answer or.
Thanks, Bobby. All right, do you see Jen Grant?
I think I saw Jen on
Yeah.
here.
She's just
Right,
on the-
Molly. There she is.
Hi, Jen.
Can't hear you.
I am here.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. And so this is an application to do some
Thanks, Bobby.
Remediate.
stream bank remediation in the area.
Yep. So quick, and I included an overview in the packet of just the EWP. It was a new program to me. I learned about it through Brian Voigt in the aftermath of the flooding last July. So thank you, Brian, for being a great resource as always. So this program, I met, there were 3 of the field engineers for USDA NRCS back in early August of last year, I believe. We visited several locations up and down North Basin Road that were damaged from the July flooding. There was also another one that had some minor damage off Highbridge Hill. Of all the properties visited, only Jen's property was qualified for funding. Kind of in a nutshell, and I was somewhat familiar with that property, had been there for a site visit on a different matter just a couple months prior. Beautiful property at the time. But the brook is quite close to the house, and so after the flooding in July, it really took out a sizable chunk, did a lot of damage to Jen's property, and is getting dangerously close to the actual house structure. So it actually fit perfectly for this watershed protection program. The dates on their letters are misleading. There's one that has October of 23. That's not correct. So I was actually given the money, the project was funded, quote unquote, sometime in late November. Then I received communication in December. So as you'll see here, the estimated cost to remediate the damage was basically they're going to restabilize the bank that is encroaching upon Jen's home. The approximate cost is $132,000. So the way this program works is that they'll come out, they'll do their field work. If you qualify for the program, they will cover 100% of the engineering costs and then a maximum of 75% of the actual construction costs. The other 25% is to be made up by a sponsor. Sometimes that is the property owner. The town's role in this process is to be the one that applies for the grant. So that would be me. I'll be taking care of all the paperwork. I do not include the grant application in the packet, but I do have it downstairs. And so I did reach out to, I have an email here to one of the engineers last week. And I had some questions for him and he responded. We chatted and he put them down in writing. So the town is the sponsor. All communication goes through me and then I communicate that to Jen. Prior, we have to work out, there is this 25% sponsor share, which in this equation is a little over $33,000. There would need to be a 25% match. So without going into, I'm here today to get your blessing to go ahead as the town as the sponsor for this application, to get the ball rolling, get it completed, have the engineering work done, which is at no cost, before any shovel goes in the ground. There needs to be a dedicated sponsor, whether that is Jen or somebody else. Once the shovel goes in the ground, the project is taken to completion. So I would advise, Jen and I are in close contact. So I will get this ball rolling with the select board's blessing. And I would say in the meantime, no, I don't, whether Jen, we'd have to work out the sponsorship share and whether you're able to take care of that prior to any work being done. There is somewhere in here, they want to get it done within X amount of days of the damage. The odd thing is when we met at Jen's property, they were still looking for engineers to remediate the 2023 July flooding. So it just goes to show you how backlogged they are. So unfortunately, Jen, I think it's going to take longer than you and I would like. But we'll have to play the game. And so I would just, I'm asking for approval to go ahead as a town being the sponsor and complete the grant application and get the ball rolling on the engineering part of this.
Just a clarifying question. So there's the sponsoring of the grant application. So us agreeing to sponsor is one thing, but then is that the same sponsor of the sponsor share or that's
No, it's
just,
not.
okay.
No.
So-
So, but that 25% sponsor share will have to be worked out before any sort of actual remediation is done.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure we participated in this program on some properties on Folsom Brook near
Really?
Mad Bush after Irene.
Oh, interesting. The EWP, was it around that long?
Mhm.
Oh, let me look into that. Okay. I think at this point, it's looking for the blessing
just
to go ahead and
You just need approval to submit the grant application.
and take it through the engineering phase.
Okay.
Yep.
Somebody want to make that motion?
Yeah. I'd make a motion to approve submittal of the grant application to the Emergency Watershed Protection Program of USDA.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Would you like me to, when I complete the grant application, would you like me to include it in the upcoming select board packet? I mean, we're not spending any money or getting involved with that, but I'd be happy to include it in the package before I send it off. If you'd like.
I think people, maybe you could just probably provide an update and let people know that it's been submitted.
Okay.
I don't think there's a need to, if they want, they can look at it.
Mhm. Yes,
But I don't know that we need to include it in a packet.
we're not committing to anything.
No,
Yep.
no, we're just
Sponsor. Yeah.
sponsoring it in terms of just moving the application forward and making sure that it gets looked at. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Jen? Did you have any? Or are you all set? Did you have any questions or comment, Jen, before we move on?
Oh,
or-
me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
It's odd because you're looking in a different direction.
I know,
no.
because I'm looking at the TV and I'm not looking
You're
at the
looking at
camera.
JB.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I don't. Thank you very much. And I just want to
Okay.
thank JB for all the work he's done. I know it's a lot to shepherd through all the process. So I really appreciate all the work he's done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. I'll get through for you.
Great.
Okay, good, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Then up next, we just had, I put on the agenda the Route 100 speed limit concerns, because I know this came up in last week, or was it the week
Was it
before, a
the-
week and a half ago?
Yeah, okay. The accident was the 31st, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Miss Dave
Oh,
Babbitt Klein
okay.
here is on the Neck of the Woods board.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I originally, I had, there was an accident outside, Neck of the Woods on was it the 30th, Bowie? The Thursday there.
Whatever that Thursday was, I think it was the 30th.
Bowie's our executive director of Neck of the Woods.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all.
And so, yeah, so, it's, in the aftermath of that, I crafted an email, to you all. There are several areas of town that I have concerns about. And to be honest, the bigger one is towards Mad Bush Falls. But I just kind of wanted to get the ball rolling as to, what the process, I know it's cumbersome and it seems almost like too cumbersome. So, in this particular instance, so one of our employees, who many of you know, was pulling out and was hit, by somebody going at an excessive rate of speed. And, it took some time for some of the details to come out. So, I kind of wanted, my own desire would be to dial back any sort of, request to at least change the speed limits there, given the process that it is. Although I remain concerned there, and as well as down by Mad Bush Falls, which I think is a scarier situation, due to the speeds and potential bicycle traffic and what have you. And there is a blind curve there. But I think our purpose here today was to see if the town would support, or had any ideas in potentially getting a school zone sign there. I mean, it's a flashing sign, and I know even that comes with
Yeah.
endless amounts of work and.
Yeah, and I don't know if. Because technically I don't know what the regulations are in
You're a
terms
school.
of being a school
Yeah.
versus, and having those signs. And I know the sheriff and some of us on the select board at least would like to get the same thing in front of the elementary school.
Yes.
And that I would probably prioritize, because I think
I would-
it is that 40 going down to 30, and I've been passed going 30 in front of the school, and I've seen cars
Yep.
pass other people in front of the school
Mhm.
as well, going into town and out of town.
Mhm.
So that's one that we've been talking about, but I did notice that over by where Neck of the Woods is, there's no sign indicating, like when you're coming south, you get past Neck of the Woods and then it says caution,
Caution.
traffic turning,
Mhm.
but it's related to all the houses and not Neck of the Woods. So
Mhm.
I don't know if, like a first step might just be getting like,
Maybe having that sign.
yeah, some sort of sign like that.
Yeah, I noticed that too, that, because I think we had chatted about it, and that is.
Yeah, and there's nothing
points out that
going
we can
north,
move
yeah.
that farther north.
I found today online, and I just found it, but I will get it forwarded to everyone. There is a guide that V-Trans has for setting speed limits, which is a guide for Vermont towns. And everybody knows that the first thing that is going to happen is a traffic study. They will have to do a study there to determine. There's kind of an 80% guide that the state goes by. The speed limits are either lower because you're going through town, like what happens when you come into Waitsfield, or on state highways, they're 50 miles an hour. And that's where V-Trans starts from. From there, if you're looking for any kind of reduced speed, you have to go through a traffic study. And after that traffic study, there is at some point in the process, then the decisions go before V-Trans board, which meets, I think, 2 or 3 times a year to make the decisions. In terms of signs, I think there's a similar process, but I'm not as familiar with that. At the time that Neck of the Woods was going for its first permit to the DRB, and this is odd, I'm the only remaining planning commissioner that remembers the history of this whole thing. I'm not sure. I think the set was, the permit was for around, at the time, 50 students. And I was at the DRB and advocated for a traffic study then. And the conversation was, well, that's only 2 times a day where there's traffic, pick up and drop off. And I'm kind of like, yeah, well, would be what you want the traffic study for. But one was never done. And I understand that the permit by the DRB was just up to 125 students for the future. So I would recommend traffic study again. And with that number, V-Trans may just go ahead and say it has to be done.
Well, my understanding though of a traffic study is the new speed limit is based on like an average of how fast people actually go. So
Yeah,
it's not the safety that's driving what
right.
the speed limit's at. It's the reality of if everybody's going 55, it's still gonna stay at 50.
So do we have a regulatory challenge or do we have an enforcement challenge?
Right.
I
See all
submit that
of
we
the
have an
above?
enforcement challenge. If in this instance, the car had been traveling the speed limit, it might not have happened.
Right.
But at 50 miles an hour, over 50 miles an hour, it happened. We have an enforcement problem. And enforcement is something we can change almost immediately. Changing anything regulatory is going to take years.
Yeah.
And still, you need enforcement even after you
Right.
lower the speed limit to whatever. I would advocate some more enforcement.
I was thinking maybe we could ask, Davis comes in here every so often. I think that's his name, the sheriff.
Mhm.
Both places.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know he
Yeah,
sat
sure.
down, Steve McKenzie gave him the okay to sit in his driveway on East Road, and boy, traffic has slowed down
Mhm.
considerably just by him sitting out there. a couple
And
times.
that-
Parked them down in
Yeah.
the driveway
Right,
for
yeah.
2 hours,
Yeah.
it was 5 hours
Yeah.
every now and again.
Yeah. I mean, there has been only one other accident there in recent memory, and that was Claudia Becker. About 3 or 4 years ago when her dog was killed. I'm not sure the details around that. Alice, in response to your question, my take on that, and first of all, the board conditioned approval, that should there be traffic or, access issues, as far as the incoming, the circulation of traffic, within the grounds, then that would lead to, the potential for a traffic study. I think, I did not bring this up. We have an excessive, cargo an excessive rate, potentially, what's the word for it when they're intoxicated, imperiled, what's the word? Impaired, thank you. I think that's,
Right.
I don't think it's the same thing. I think my further I just might add is, further request would be if indeed the town receives a grant to go ahead and look at that bridge, then perhaps, if there is a traffic study associated with that bridge, they could take into consideration the traffic of the neck of the woods. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right, and I do wonder about some sort of realignment
Yeah.
with that
Yes.
whole intersection there.
You're turning south on,
That's the
it's
problem.
not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turning north on Route 100 is not easy either,
you gotta make a
It's a
perfect
horrible-
decision, basically, it's split second.
and fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because, and I think we're gonna measure the
Yes.
distance from the top of the hill.
Yes.
Then we can see what's happening right away. Yeah.
In the state guidelines, by right, you can put a hidden drive sign if it's less than
Mm.
425 feet.
Okay, that's good.
So I was thinking it would be maybe
Without a
an
traffic study, I think.
interim step, but it's
Yeah.
probably faster to get signage up than to change the speed limit.
Yeah.
So maybe that's an interim.
Right now, we're trying to fix the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a hidden drive sign, and then we can talk to Davis next time he's in and see if he
I
can
think
park there
enforcement
for a while.
would be
Yeah,
something that could happen
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
It would have a
Mhm.
much greater,
It's definitely worked on East Road.
yeah, that's what we need.
And I think,
A law without enforcement is just good advice. We need enforcement, the whole corridor.
What's the others in the dip by Madbush?
yeah, and so that's the one I actually started when Annie was still here. I reached out to, and just as Alice was explaining correctly, the process is what I had heard. So I actually had initially gotten the ball rolling on that, but I just didn't have the wherewithal without a town administrator to bring that to fruition. I know Josh Schwartz is good, but with all due respect to what happened in this incident neck of the woods, that area is really what frightens me. And it's always been an issue, and I know Jonathan has almost gotten in some car accidents coming around that
I
corner.
can tell you stories.
Yeah, and when as you have more and more
I use it quite
bicycles coming out there.
Mhm.
As you have more and more bicycles, and again, the DRB has said they don't want cyclists coming out that way, but you can't stop somebody who doesn't read the signs.
Mhm.
So honestly, that would be the one area if the town did have to pursue dropping the speed limit, especially with Mac Rood's development there with an 8-lot subdivision. It's just, it's very hairy in there. So I think if there were one project the town would pursue, somewhere down the line, it would be trying to lower the speed limit over by Madbush Falls to at least 40 miles an hour. And I think probably a case could be made, because, now you have this hotel restaurant, now you have a 8-lot subdivision. Times have changed, circumstances have changed, so it might be an easier pitch. We have the wherewithal.
All right.
Good to know that there's some sort of immediate things that can be
Yeah,
pursued.
yeah, we're looking at that. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks for your
Thank
time,
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for everything tonight. Okay,
Thanks, Alice, thanks, Moe.
thanks.
Little one.
Oh, my God.
All right. And then on to the request from Mad River Path regarding the storage penalty fee. While the Path representatives and Friends of the Mad River representatives have agreed that sharing the storage space for the tools is fair and reasonable, I think Misha has been requested that we waive the intended penalty fee for the canoes.
Why?
He said, let's see. I respectfully ask the town to waive the canoe and trailer storage fees. The trailer is snowed in, but as soon as conditions permit, we will move the trailer and the canoes off-site.
The whole idea of charging them was to not incentivize him to have those canoes there.
Yeah,
And he,
But to me, I think that's great, and that the issue was kind of the sightliness or unsightliness of the canoes and all, and I agree there's a history there, but if he's saying, I'm gonna get him out of there as soon as I can, and I'm not gonna bring him back. Great.
Is he saying he's
going to
not
have him there this summer for his,
I thought he just said he was getting him, he was gonna take him
until
out.
the summer?
canoes will be on site during the summer camp, June 23rd to August
I
27th.
missed that part.
During that period, they will be primarily out on trips, coming to the Wait House in between the trips, Friday evening to Sunday morning, except during the week of the day camp.
We have
yeah,
since,
no,
I mean, we have since reached
another.
agreement with them to allow for the storage. Initially, that wasn't included in the lease and they were fined for that. I don't know. I think it's excessively punitive. They've agreed to pay for storage. The Friends have agreed to share the cost of it. I don't see the benefit of hitting a small nonprofit who's providing community service up to the penalty.
I think as long as there's a sort of clear expectations and boundaries, because I feel like that has been the because and I understand that that's been a problem in the past, but especially as we're in the process of trying to onboard the lease or sort of implement, figuring out what the best practices are for different tenants. I would be inclined, especially if they are snowed in at this point, to be on the more lenient side, but be very clear about sort of basically as soon as there is no snow, they will be gone. And
But he's already stated he's gonna have them.
He's gonna have them during the summer. And I had said we would,
That's up to us, isn't it, in the White House Commission to decide, like, do we want to allow them there over the summer or can you find an alternative? Sorry to
Yeah, well, I mean, I think his plan is to have them there for camps, and I had said we would take it down to $168 a month, not the original 600 or 700.
Which was based on that, I mean, that penalty was something that was just. It was semi-arbitrary as the person who sort of came up with the idea. And was based on basically square feet. per
Yeah,
square
we
foot.
agreed
Yeah.
though, we agreed as a board that there should be a penalty for the storage because we wanted to discourage it.
Sure.
So I think it's fair to say we all own that decision.
Yeah, that said, I think the rolling out the leases could have been a smoother process. It's a penalty for a lease that the Path Association hasn't entered into. And the lease has been adjusted, we've agreed to adjust it since then to deal with storage.
For the store, but the basement storage
In the connector storage.
and the connector storage.
And I will say where the canoes are stored now, it's just gonna be empty space. In that
Which is
back,
also
yeah.
okay, because the problem
space
is
fine.
people just keep filling up space. And then before you know it, there's stuff everywhere. Like
But
there was
Larissa
before.
said as long, there were no parameters before, and now we're establishing parameters.
Where are they? I should know this, but where are they stored now?
There's a gap in the very rear of the building between the two barns. I'm still,
It's sort of
it's
it's
weird.
an odd,
It's an odd space, yeah.
I do know that where they are does affect Josh's ability to plow, is my understanding, based on,
Where the trailer.
Where the
is,
trailer is
In Mo.
and
and now.
and,
Yeah, to me, fully supportive of having Misha and the nonprofit there, but if we're trying to maintain the historic look and feel of that site, having a trailer full of canoes doesn't really get me there anyway. Wonder, are there alternatives like nearby
rec hub?
that could still work, like the rec hub or the back of the church or somewhere, I don't know, but
Yeah, it's not our job to find them a place. I think it's our job to say like,
yes. Yes or no.
they can stay there till the snow is gone and then they're gone. Except for these days in question when you're supposed to have the camp. You need to touch base with Josh specifically about where it's gonna be parked, so it's not in the way. And if you violate the terms of this agreement, then we're nullifying your lease and you can find another place to live, because the way that I'm gonna do something and then ask for forgiveness and not finding a way to get through things ahead of time or asking permission is not working.
we also have a parking problem there. We really don't have enough parking space a lot of the time. And where he parks his trailers with the canoes in the summertime, really is 2 parking spots.
Just to the left of the barn.
Yeah.
Right, but if he gave me dates. And said it would only be parked there. Specific Friday night through Sunday. So the only time he would have it on site would be June 23rd to August 27th. And I could say, the expectation is that the trailer isn't parked there when you're out using the canoes. It needs to be off-site. And if it's off-site except for Friday evening to Sunday morning, then that's not gonna be a problem with the mowing.
because they mow during the week.
Yeah, it's either like Thursday or Friday.
And he hasn't requested use of that area for his camp.
Mhm. Is there a form that's been distributed to
It's being
everybody?
worked on. But he's just assumed that he could use it.
Okay,
I mean, he's asked nobody. I know he hasn't asked the board and I know he hasn't asked the General Weight Commission if he could use that facility for
his camps.
his camps.
Right.
He's just done it. And he's not, we know what he's paying for it. What areas that he's paying for them.
Right.
This is aside from
Is he using it for a camp? My understanding is
Rally Point.
they gather and then go off on different outings. They're not doing programming there.
I mean, he's using portions of the premises.
Right, so he still needs to reserve the premises for the, or the, whatever, for the day that he has everybody meeting to come there. That needs to, he needs to sign up for that. The day that they're all coming back and the kids are getting picked up, he needs to sign up
So
for
we get a
that.
lot of people coming in to drop off and pick up. A lot of usage there,
Yeah,
unplanned usage.
Well, it sounds like that's what's happened historically. And it sounds like this is an
I think
opportunity to,
yeah, the camps are new.
right, no, so, well, historically being relative. So I know that these camps at least existed last summer, correct? So, and I'm pretty sure he's planning to do it this summer, because I'm pretty sure that I've seen advertising
Yes.
about it. Yes, so, I mean, there's a limit to how much permission he can ask now, but I do think that for those dates, that it would be a good demonstration of, oh, yeah, oops. Good faith to, even though he's kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit, to actually go through the process of, reserving the space for that amount of time, et cetera. So I understand the concern. I think that that's relevant to the question at hand, but doesn't necessarily impact it directly. I don't know. I know it's frustrating.
It's a pattern of,
Mhm.
Yeah, and he spoke to that, or we spoke about that with him last time, but no question, a chunk of that's on him. Some of that is on the fact that we didn't have a process, there wasn't really a clear who to go to, all that stuff. That's all changing now, for the better, which is awesome. But yeah, I don't wanna penalize him unduly. I think like the camps, it's a huge benefit to the valley and support for the kids. The parent of older kids now, but at the time it was like not easy to piece together your summer, and if he's offering that's working out and it was popular last year and he's gonna do it again. Awesome. We need to put some parameters around what we want him to do and not want to do on site, but I don't want to discourage him from offering that service.
luckily, the several other events that are being scheduled at the White House doesn't fall on his dates. But, he's come in and sort of like said, I'm using these dates, there could have been a conflict.
Well, if there
Yeah.
was, I think I'm not clear on what the process is for reserving the space and how accessible it is, but if there were a process and the space were reserved, and he said he's gonna use it, if there's maybe not.
Right.
Yeah, but I think it would help if there was some sort of calendar for people to
Yes.
look at, so they could know.
I've actually started, well, that's why I'd like, when we sort of catch up with things, to have a calendar on our town website
Yeah,
for usage
Right.
of.
well, there could be a Google Calendar. We have all sorts of rooms that are like, people reserve
Yeah,
this
yeah.
space, and it wouldn't be something that they could sign up for on their own. But they could check it themselves to
Yeah.
see if it's being used when they want to use it, and then submit an application if it's not.
Permit request, yep.
not
York
being
and I
used.
had a wide-ranging conversation this morning, and one of the issues was scheduling all of our spaces.
Yeah,
And we have this polo field was
Yeah.
dealt with today.
yeah, Polo Field's one of them.
Mhm.
But Jennifer deals with some of them, and some of the town office spaces usually she deals with.
Yeah.
So.
And there is a calendar for the conference room there, but I don't know who's controls it.
I don't think it's the town.
No, I wanted to reserve it and Josh Schwartz sent me the access to the calendar. So you gotta,
Yeah.
This is one of those times where, I mean, I've done some arts administration, and one of the big problems is renting studios and reserving studio spaces and the logistics of that. And so we want to chat at some point about different ways to, because I think the biggest problem I'm hearing is like there are multiple different methods. It's not centralized. We don't know who's in charge.
It's a
or
power
how-
board.
Yeah.
Is what it is. And now that somebody's coming in and saying we're gonna impose structure,
Mhm.
everybody's freaking out because they liked it when they could just do whatever.
Just do whatever they wanted, yeah. But just because a space is not used does not mean that that space is free.
It's
Yeah.
correct,
yeah.
The
correct.
commission-
And some are monitored and some are not.
I have ideas on that too.
Well, the commission is working on a permit request.
Mhm.
We talked about it tonight in our meeting. Made some revisions to it. It's coming up again on our next agenda in March. And I think we'll have that form solidified pretty soon.
Mhm.
And we'll submit it here for the board to look at. So it's in the works.
Right.
It's happening.
Is it a
Yeah.
paper form?
When,
Is it a digital form? Is it both?
yeah, originally, it will be online, so you can pull it up, yes. No, we want to make as much as we can online.
Mhm.
Well, is there anything I can do to help facilitate this?
Eventually, probably.
Yeah.
I don't wanna put the cart in front of the horse.
Potato.
Duck and cover.
Yeah. Well, formalizing, I mean, a lot of what I've heard today is a lack of formal,
Processes.
yeah.
And
there's
procedures.
nothing's, a lot of things aren't formalized.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that we still think there's no real calendar for the polo field, for example,
Right.
and maybe Jen just has it in her mind. Or maybe not,
I'm pretty sure there's not.
yeah, so, I just think really what's happening is. People are pushing the boundaries and it's helping us realize the parameters that we have to set up, and I think that's exciting. And it probably will create a lot of opportunity for a lot of the nonprofits and people in the community to take advantage of all the assets that the town has.
I'd be curious how the rec district handles the rec fields.
Well,
Just because there is a system
there's,
doesn't
I mean,
mean it's
it's,
necessarily a
yeah,
good one.
but it's, I mean, it's,
I don't
it's
know.
kind of like, this is their space. It's kind of divided between the two main users as far as like, here are the soccer fields and these are lacrosse fields.
So the soccer
Gets one end and
groups know what
lacrosse,
they got and they just use it.
yeah, and lacrosse gets the other.
That's kind of like the couples club.
And then they
the Little
know,
League.
yeah, and I'm sure they do some scheduling around tournaments and stuff like that. But they also have, you know, if they have an executive director and that's a person that can organize all that, I think that's part of her spelled out in her job description.
So is it accurate to say that as far as the canoes go, that is there consensus around once snow is gone, canoes are gone? Is that, I feel like there are two separate big pieces of the canoe question, and one is sort of snow making it difficult for him to remove them right now, but the intention is that.
Well, they'll slide on top of the snow.
But the trailer,
Right, but the trailer, okay. So that's sort of one piece. And then the other piece is the camps. And making sure that it's not in the way when mowing is happening
right,
during that period of time.
right.
If he's
And I,
given us,
and I will let him know that he has to get permission to have the camps and everything there.
Yeah.
But that if the canoes are on site when the camps are happening, they need to be out of the way. And it's not ongoing storage, like it's,
Yeah, so there's no
Between
permanent
what is it?
storage of the canoes on site there. If we think this makes sense, temporary storage during specific camp
Yes,
events or
right.
whatever.
And when they like drop the kids off in the river with the canoes, they're not just bringing the trailer back and leaving it on site. Nothing's there. Until they pick up the canoes and they can bring them back and hang out. For
It
the
needs
weekend.
another storage site,
He does.
cause I don't know if he could. He needs another
Yeah.
storage site, because I don't think he can't leave his trailer. He needs a place to park it.
Yeah,
We don't
That's-
want
on a
it.
regular basis,
Yeah,
yes.
and that's, yeah, he needs to figure that out.
And I'll let him know that that's what he's gonna have to do. All right,
So. We charging them rent for storage this one.
what are we doing?
Yes, he said he's ready to sign the lease. He wants to, he needs an addendum to clarify the storage space. And Ira from the Friends of that River sent me an email saying he's all good with that, fine sharing the price that you had given them. And
Right,
he said if we want him to pay back rent, they're just happy to do that. I mean, it's not that much money.
mhm. Yeah, and that's for the walkthrough
Connector.
space with the connector space where the
Yeah.
tools are. And that's whatever you guys had said. I think it was like $150 or something.
That's the half price.
Yeah, okay. So then the question was whether we would waive the fee or the penalty for the canoes. Until he has time to move them.
How much are we talking? What was the?
I mean, they're very large, physically large, so if the penalty is per square foot. it is
Yeah,
very
they,
big.
they were up there.
Yeah,
Because I
I
think-
just think it's all part of the growing pains process of having things in place. I'd rather have a good faith effort to say, all right, you're off the hook this time. But going forward, there's rules.
Right,
I could see
I'm good with that.
I'm not.
that. I got that sense.
But. We just one vote.
yeah. And once the snow is gone, if the canoes aren't gone,
$160 we're charging them
for the canoes
for the canoes, yeah.
and the trailer. Or,
No, that was just the canoes.
As like a one-time thing or?
no, that was
That was
monthly.
monthly.
Okay.
Well, I would waive the trailer storage fee. And charge him for just. The canoe storage area. 'Cause initially, we had them down for $380 for the trailer storage, because it's taking up 2 parking spots. I'd be okay with waiving that and charging them just for the canoe and. Storage of the canoes, which is $160 a month.
What's the rent? What's the rest of his rent outside of,
His room rent
mhm.
is $163. The connector space. We just cut in half to $105, I believe it is.
Would it work to say if you sign a lease and pay us the rent for your primary space back from January 1st, which was the intent? And what other tenants have done, we'll waive some or all of the canoe storage fees. 'Cause right now we're getting on to like 2 months past the time we were supposed to sign the lease.
Yeah, I'd be good with that. I'd hate for there to be we're 3 weeks away from town meeting. There's an article about the White House on it. I'd hate there to be bad juju out there.
Another
Being
article.
managed.
Right. Has he paid rent in January, for example, or December and January? Or is it waiting to see how this all gets resolved?
To my
think-
knowledge.
No, I think he's paid the old.
The old
He's paid
rate.
That's what
He
I'm
paid the
trying
old
to say, yes.
Yeah.
So
The
he
delta
need-
between.
He
the
needs
new
to
and
make up the
old.
difference.
Yeah, so could we say you'll make up the difference to this new rent? You've been sitting on this lease for a couple months now. We'll waive the canoe storage, which if the canoe storage is as much as the office rent, that seems punitive, to be honest.
That was the point.
I get that. We felt also
Sorry.
a nonprofit, it wasn't clear.
Yes,
Yeah, and-
well,
Yeah, it was.
he
clear.
took liberties.
Yeah.
I
We
think it's
told him
fair to
that.
see, he say, it's pretty clear he took some liberties.
Yeah.
I'd like to give him an opportunity
And
to amend his behavior, even with the knowledge that it is possible that that will not be what happens. I would like
right,
to.
so as soon as this snow is clear and it's it's dry enough to move that trailer, then I would say it needs to be gone. And if it continues to stay there, then we're gonna go back and we're gonna start. There's not gonna be forgiveness the second time around.
How about charging them for the canoe space? And when they're gone, we'll delete it.
What do you mean delete it?
We'll delete
Credit
the
them,
$160.
so it's
Sort of
like,
like hold it in escrow or something.
hold it as a deposit.
Yeah.
No, hold it as rent for using that space.
And then you'll return the funds or delete it or,
No,
Just the-
then when he moves the canoes, we'll drop that $160 off his rent. So until the canoes are moved,
which will incentivize them to remove them from the property.
what was the point all along? Yes,
There's something about it being exactly the same amount as his rent for the office that feels.
Mhm.
I understand the not waiving it in its entirety, because then that sort of undermines the. At least,
Encourages that
right,
repeat behavior.
is there a compromise amount?
I like what Josh said, say, pay your back rent, and as soon as snow's gone, trailer's gone. And
And the canoes are gone.
in the canoes. Yeah, once, if the trailer can be pulled out of there, the canoes can be on top of them.
Yeah. Do we need a motion? Since there is disagreement here.
Can I ask a question? Is there a way to even make it more formalized? Like Josh saying. The conditions are right that can be come out, can be taken out, and then that even be in the lease. That when we know the go ahead or we put a certain date on. If the canoes and trailer are not gone by that time, then this rent will be added to your lease.
Sort of like a specific contingency.
A contingency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to kind of compromise with Fred's concerns and the penalty, but also, he's a nonprofit that's giving back to the community a lot, clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, we could say not later than X date, they gotta be out of there.
in
Oh,
their
yeah, next day.
entirety,
Yeah.
on
use
their
that trailer,
premises.
Not later than, what, April 15th?
I was just thinking April 15th.
What if you get like 3 feet of snow on April 10th? Could happen.
Gets them on top of the snow.
All right, how about, do we want to say April 15th, and if there's an issue, then he needs to, and they're not, he's for whatever reason not able to remove them, he needs to come back to the board. But his expectation should be that he's paying that.
It'd be exciting, just seeing him last time, and he's so passionate. I personally really like him so far. I love passionate people. I'm guilty of being overly passionate a lot. But this is being an opportunity to re-engage and to increase transparency and communication. And to me, that's super exciting that maybe this can be a new open door.
Yeah, well, I think if we go on with that proposal, I think we're showing some flexibility of, like, we will. We'll waive the fee if you pay your back rent for the office space, not for everything, but to the office space back to.
And connector space.
In the connector space.
And connector
Mhm.
space, back to Jan 1, I think was the intent of when the new leases were supposed to be signed, right,
Mm-hmm.
for the new year.
Effective. I mean, honestly, whether or not he signed it, he still owes it, because we imposed the lease
We
on
don't
that
have a
date,
signed contract, though.
huh?
We don't have a signed contract.
Well, then he can, if he doesn't have a signed contract, he doesn't
Then he's-
have a right to any of the
he's gotta-
space, and he
At
can
some
move,
point, he's gotta leave.
That's right.
He-
right, so,
It's not
like,
what we want, but
right, we gave him fair notice
go
that
on
their
forever.
increase was gonna go up, and it did, and there's a new written lease, and he needs to sign it if he wants to stay. That's how it works.
But I think
And that's
that-
how Ira considered it, and, you know, that's what he thought our expectation was and agreed to it,
Mhm.
so.
And I think the sort of paying the delta between what, if he's been paying what rent was charged on the previous lease. If he's willing to pay the back rent through January. That's a sign of good faith without like a huge loss to the town.
Mhm.
You live with that?
If it's enumerated in the lease.
Mm. Sort of
Not
like an
just- not
addendum.
just Addendum.
Yeah, an addendum to the
Mhm.
lease,
Addendum.
yeah.
Right, yeah, I'm
And sign. The addendum signed.
And
by him, or
Mhm.
However, if the chair
I
wants to
mean,
do it, I don't know how they do
I-
their business.
Or
I
just
expect you
slap
can
it on
do
the back
yeah.
of the lease.
Yeah.
I will write up everything that we said.
Okay.
And get it over
April 15th.
April 15th. Okay,
Do we have to fill out that motion in detail?
I
Do
got
we-
the notes.
do we need a motion or?
I
is it
don't,
just
I mean,
kinda
I
like-
think.
Well, I think we, let's say I'll make a motion to, waive the, penalty under the terms that we've agreed to, and that the chair will write up.
One second. there.
Second, all right, and all those in favor,
Like,
Aye.
those opposed?
No, that's cool. That's-
Okay.
that's
Okay.
cool.
Okay, thanks, Fred.
I just wanted to see you sweat for a second.
It's a no vote, I'm okay with it,
Done it before.
we,
I just think Carol needs to know that it was unanimous.
yes, yes. Okay, town meeting day planning, and I also realized that somehow there's no select board roundtable, if that was something that we need. But we do need to talk about town meeting day planning normally. So we meet the second and fourth Monday of the month. I think in years past, we've generally canceled the second February meeting because we meet the night before town meeting day, which is the first Monday of the month, and talk about the presentation for the next day.
Mhm.
I think we had some back and forth about possibly doing it a little bit differently this year, meeting on the 24th to have a first look at the presentation, whatever that looks like, and then if we need time to change it or button anything up, we can do that before town meeting day. Rather than leaving it all the way until that night. But then there was some talk, now that we have a town administrator, usually we have a PowerPoint at town meeting day. I mean, so we have a moderator that talks through the meeting, kind of runs the meeting and goes through the articles. And then when we get to the budget article, there's like a presentation on like the highlights of the budget. And both in terms
Yeah,
of
I
expenses
told
and
York
revenues.
today that we may ask him to. I gave him the town report to read, and may ask him to take his first shot at the PowerPoint, which I have from last year.
Yeah,
It's
I
gonna
could
be
not
different.
find it yet. If it's on the computer, I wasn't,
Okay, I can show you, or I sent it to myself because I
Okay.
don't like working, I didn't like doing things in the office downstairs.
Yeah.
So I can send it back to you. And Chad asked for it
mhm,
an hour and a half ago.
no, that sounds fine.
okay, so yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty much using that as a model and.
That's great.
It's looking at debt trends and budget,
Yeah, tax
why-
rates,
Yeah, that's totally fine.
budget highlights.
yeah.
Yeah.
In this case, we're gonna have to really explain the unassigned balances.
Mhm,
And I don't think that's anything that we've ever really talked about at town meeting that I remember.
mhm. No, because I think it's been a really long time since we've done anything with them.
Yeah, I mean,
Had the opportunity to do
Yeah.
anything with them.
Yeah.
So, and those are articles as well, so.
yes,
That might be like an additional slide or two, just so that we can kind of show those trends and track that information.
and then we need to decide who gives that presentation
Right. But we can decide that.
on the next,
On the
after we
next
get it
meeting.
pulled together, yeah.
I don't know if this matters necessarily from a schedule perspective, but I'm gonna not be here for that. If we meet on the 24th, I'm gonna be away. I'd be back that weekend before town meeting, so if we met on Monday, I'd be around. FYI. Don't change your plans.
So historically, so I know we don't actually elect the moderator until the day of, but we
Mhm.
have an intended moderator. Does the moderator come in advance or not? That not typically. I thought I watched a
She has
meeting.
The past couple of
Okay.
years, I don't know that it's absolutely necessary.
I was just curious if that's
Sure,
a sort of
that's
scheduling
tradition.
logistical.
It's always sort of in the tradition.
Right,
I told Christine, like, for I think the last 4 years that I was moderator, I didn't come in.
Yeah.
Go off the select board.
Yeah, if we, if Carrie had questions, you can meet with one of us. She can meet with me or you or
Yeah.
one of us to walk through, like,
maybe you can like talk.
she has
about
questions about the
thing.
articles and how to.
Yeah,
Team
we
up
could,
or
we could,
something.
I mean, we could, if she'd be. We could sit down, I'd be glad to meet with you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
If, anytime.
Right.
After
Yeah, I mean, the
something.
other option is to do it the way that we've historically done it, and then
Do the night before.
do it the night before. I could probably meet offline with you the week before,
Yeah,
or you too. I mean, it's,
yeah, I could, I mean, the beauty of having it wrapped up the week before is if there's anything we want to change.
Right.
If we get there to Monday, so we probably should have at least. You know, a group of us get together beforehand,
Mhm.
which I'm here.
Yeah, I'll have internet
I'm
access.
here.
I can look at something and provide comment or something.
Where are you going?
British Columbia.
Skiing?
No, no. Yeah.
Moose hunting, right?
Yeah. so stay with the 24th. And we can also just make it like. Town meeting day. Presentation stuff. I think that's generally all we do the night before town meeting anyway.
Mhm.
Do not have a full agenda.
Yeah, I mean, generally at this point, there's not a whole lot when we're at this,
Yeah.
in this stage.
So you're saying stick with the 24th and a short meeting on the 31st?
On the
Oh, not 31st.
third, right? I'd rather not do both. So. Whatever works better for people.
I get nervous not having a dress rehearsal of sorts, night before. So if it's a matter of having to choose one, I would choose the night before, but I also realize that then there isn't a whole lot of wiggle room if anything needs to change. So I don't know.
We don't have a hot button issue on the,
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
may need to change.
I'm also just nervous because this is my first one.
deep breath, deep breath.
I know.
It's fine. Nothing.
So we can send around the PowerPoint
Yeah,
in advance
Yeah. Oh,
of the
that'd be
meeting, so
great.
everybody could look
Maybe
at
we
it.
did the town report that way, kind of
Yeah.
remotely. back and
That'd be
forth.
good.
so we'll just meet on the 3rd?
Yeah.
Is that what I heard? Okay, so we're gonna cancel the 24th.
Somebody asked me about,
So we're doing the third instead?
That's what I heard.
somebody asked me about daycare at town meeting.
That
Mhm.
historically has not been something the town provides. Maybe check in with Kaya, because usually the PTA provides that.
Church supper. Yep,
Mm,
What's that?
church dinner. I wonder if they'll do that this year.
I don't know. Did we need to check in with anyone about that?
You know, they didn't didn't do it during COVID, and our last meeting was so short without the school board, they just
Didn't do
gave
it.
up.
Yeah, because the school used to be in the afternoon,
That's right, started at 1.
so I don't think we've,
In town meeting,
It just
hasn't been
seems
that
such,
long lately. I
It
liked
hasn't
it,
been
I
because
liked
we
all the
have-
casseroles.
I know it, it's like, it's
Well,
part
when-
of town meeting.
When Josh Schwartz tried to describe to me what, I was like, so what is town meeting? When he described it to me, that was an integral part of it, was that people disagreed with each other very loudly and then got together and had a meal together.
Yeah.
and then they
But I
came
haven't-
back and disagreed again.
There you go.
And everybody went home happy.
Right.
Or at
And
least
well
full.
fed,
And well,
and well fed. Or
Honestly,
well fed and not happy.
I can't remember
Right.
the last meeting, there was a big disagreement. Been a while,
yeah,
Mm,
I think,
Yeah.
3 or 4 years at least.
oh, it's was there anything the year of COVID?
no, I mean, we did the.
We didn't have a
budget by
town
ballot.
meeting.
We did. 2020, we
Yeah,
had
it
a
was
town
right
meeting.
Before
Yeah, it was,
it should hit the fan.
Yeah,
wasn't it,
it was like a week, 2 weeks before.
Yeah,
was it digital?
I don't think there was anything,
I was gonna say there was,
Person.
well, there was one that was digital and I attended that one. I was just trying to.
That would have been 2021.
Oh, there we go.
no,
Um,
the COVID, the lockdown happened like a week and a half after town meeting.
Yeah.
It happened the day I was in the Florida Keys.
Mhm.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, school got released, it was March 13th, so,
Yeah, I was in New York City and it's like was a science fiction movie.
oh, yeah, I was in Boston the weekend before, and it was like kind of creepy. Probably the last big hot button issue I remember was the whole change town meeting.
Oh, yeah,
Date,
Uh,
format,
Yep,
get
See
rid
all
of
the
the, get
above?
rid of the voting on the budget
Oh,
on the
yeah.
floor and go to Australian ballot.
interesting.
Was that?
no, it wasn't necessarily go to Australian ballot,
Well, that was,
but
there was an item.
that
on
was part of it. But then they wanted to change, like, town meeting. That I just remember being there and they kept they moved for the paper ballots, everything we voted on.
Well, that was also about the undergrounding power on Bridge Street.
But everything, they kept making a motion.
That town meeting went to
I
about
call-
5 o'clock. That
I
was the
call for a
longest
paper ballot.
one.
That's what that was.
On what?
Everything.
Oh,
Yeah, I know you had done your homework. Somebody can call for a paper ballot and
7
then
people agree.
7 people have to support it.
Yeah,
And I just remember like going through and, everyone doing their paper ballot and then Jennifer up front having to count them.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and they did it more than one. It was
So do we need to do-
probably,
there was that one that
it
went
was
till
the,
about 4 or 5
yeah,
o'clock.
the underground power, then the school budget. It was like,
So is there
that's,
paper ballot on hand
Yes.
in case of paper ballot emergency? Okay.
yeah. It generally, that was the only time it's ever happened though, I think.
Oh, I've been to other meetings with paper ballot.
Yeah, there was,
There's several.
I think on some of those were the
That were.
Conservation Commission things
The-
coming in and out and.
It was,
Close
and the
vote.
times when it's been, I've seen close
Yeah.
votes
Yeah.
and like where we've actually had to
Divided the
move
room.
to the side of the room.
Mhm.
This one, that was, they were trying to make a point
Yeah.
about paper balloting. So it was like everything, I call for a paper ballot. Over here.
My first town meeting was when everybody was upset about Virginia Houston and the well,
Mm,
where the town meeting report went for, the select board's report went for 3 hours.
I remember that.
Is the select board report that is the same as the?
It's
PowerPoint?
just,
It's just-
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no, the PowerPoint is usually before we take action on the budget.
Okay,
At the beginning of the meeting, the moderator goes through all the reports and it's like,
Mhm.
Conservation Commission's here, are there any questions for the Conservation?
oh, I see, I
Commission?
see.
And, the Conservation Commission always has something else to say, but the Planning Commission, DRB are just like, no, we're all good.
You said it. Not me.
I said it. Well,
I know the
Yeah.
planning commission's chair is not gonna be there, so.
There you go. Okay, so no meeting on the 24th, meet on the 3rd. We'll talk about the PowerPoint presentation offline. We're getting there. It is a really impressive feat
What's that?
that we've gotten to this
We have a
point.
town
We
report.
have a budget, we have a town report, like,
Thoughtful warning for town meeting and
we,
actual.
I mean, I think it's commendable, the work that we've done as a group. I think we should hold
I
that space for ourselves.
appreciate the holding of space.
And
for
as you know,
that.
as you've seen the town report, the third will be your last meeting for the time being, and we all are going to express our appreciation at town meeting for all you've done.
Thanks.
With the updated picture.
Well, you know how I love being on the spot.
Yeah. Just as
So-
advice, anytime you're arrested, you smile for the mug shot because he's gonna be used against.
Right. Okay, should we go on to the consent agenda? Okay, all right, then were there any objections to the consent agenda? It was just warrants, bills payable, and the minutes, all right, I did not put the select board roundtable on here. And we don't have a town administrator report, which hopefully that will return to our regular agenda.
I suggested that York look back and look at our meeting packets from last February.
Yes.
We had a town.
We had a town
administrator,
administrator,
and we were
where they
preparing
are
for town
now.
meeting.
These are kind of, they can be light, as I say. But it's so,
Oh, I was just gonna say roundtable, though, you'd mentioned in an email that potentially we would address
you had that one thing.
the tire damage
Yes.
question.
So,
Somebody, oh, go ahead.
I heard those emails today too, sorry.
Okay, so yes, there was an email from somebody who had damage to her tires that was pretty catastrophic. It sounds like her understanding is that that was as a result of work done on the bridge and staples of some sort.
Construction staples.
Thank you.
yes. now I remember.
Construction
Um,
debris were left and she was going through at night and
It sounded like a not fun experience. She didn't get a response because I didn't respond and
it was.
because we didn't have to, and we were
Yeah.
like doing the budget. So the question was sort of what are the next steps for that, if any? I think some communication needs to happen.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
I think we should put her in touch with the contractor.
Okay.
I would think so too.
That is not, I mean, it's. They've got the insurance, maybe she needs to demonstrate that they were the cause of the damage. It could be done. Well, not apologetically, but sorry about the damage.
Yeah.
but, it's not, we don't replace mailboxes when the plow knocks them over.
Yes, and we do, I think there is language in our road policies about it's not our responsibility when that happens.
Yeah, or damage to a tire on a pothole.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which I would have a claim on the slow road the other day.
So is that a communication that I should own, that York should own, sort of who? Cause I know that York has a lot of onboarding, like, stuff.
I mean, I'm happy to do it if, I've seen the chain of multiple emails.
Mhm.
And then they ended. So if
Yes.
I know the contractor and just am familiar enough, I'm happy to respond.
If we're gonna steer the claimant to the contractor, we should also reach out to the contractor.
Yes,
just
that would be the first.
Yeah,
Courtesy heads up.
That would be my first step.
That can cover.
Miles is a reasonable individual. I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he could, I mean, I don't know, does he even use construction staples?
It doesn't sound like a particularly historic,
Yeah.
Unless it has something to do with the,
If he was,
tenders.
Oh, yeah.
right, putting
that's
up
a good point.
netting or,
Underlayment
It's
under
odd,
the, under the roof.
one car, I don't know, it's just.
yeah,
But it sounds like that's a his insurance
Mhm.
thing.
I think it's just, it was one tire.
Yes. Okay, do we need an executive session?
So is that, are
You're,
you okay with that? You
I'm
wanna,
with it
you wanna
if you
run
guys want
something
me
by
to.
us? If you, I don't
That's
wanna
fine.
be micro anything.
Yeah.
Whatever you want me to do, as long as, I know who the contractor is and can
okay,
find them.
yeah, it's the Vermont, it's Vermont Heavy
It's Vermont
Timber,
Heavy Timber.
so.
On my barn.
I can just ask Steve to,
Yeah,
he's
you
got
could pull
his
out the
contact
contract.
sign, and, if you'd like, well, I mean, I would probably just contact the contractor and then go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
If that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure you can figure it out.
The Woodenwood signs?
Yeah, I forwarded that email to York and I figured at this point.
Yeah.
You could design and then, so we ordered new signs for either end of town. You know, when you're coming in, there's a wood sign just kind of past the elementary school on the other side. So we were using some of the remaining ARPA funds to buy new signs. And we ordered them, they received their deposit check and they just needs there was like a contract that they needed signed. So I forwarded that
Okay.
to you, thinking that now you can sign
Did
it.
you do that this evening?
Yes,
Okay.
so you wouldn't have
That's why I
seen
haven't
it.
seen yet.
No.
But what-
And then when they have the mock-ups or whatever together, maybe it would make sense to bring them back to the board just to have them okay it since.
yeah, and the other thing I was wanting to say is if they could take the old signs and drop them off here.
Uh-huh,
Steve wants one.
Oh, he does.
okay.
I feel like
That's-
that might be a provision that they will not.
They might.
Maybe I'm misremembering the contract, but I think.
I don't know.
I
If there's
think-
actual provision,
Okay.
well, he can, I'm worried about that.
The interesting with the, he doesn't use wood anymore.
He doesn't?
Ironically,
At
With
Woodenwood?
wood and wood does not.
I
use
had
wood.
him build a couple signs for me. The first one was wood, and then he said, that when we replaced our logo, he was like, there's this new material that's a lot better, it stands up. It's got like a wood frame, I think.
Mhm. Looks like
That's
wood.
not surprising. It's the
Alright.
same as that Hardy board.
Yeah,
Well, a lot of white trim on houses now are plastic.
yeah.
Yay, PFAS. All
All
right.
Right, okay, so anything else, or are we good to adjourn? All right,
I second.
some. No objections, we're good.
Hi,
5 after 8.
all right.